I'm going to ask you guys questions about Ma and Pa. Dorothy, why don't you start? You're the oldest.
Ooh, I know.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember first about Ma and Pa?
I can remember thinking my mama was old.
Yeah?
And she was less than 17 years older than I was.
She always did look
Matronly.
matronly and old.
Well, Daddy insisted when they got married, when she was the week after her 16th birthday, they ran away and got married. And he insisted that she pin her hair up on top of her head when she got back home. He said, when you're married, you wear your hair up. And her hair was so fine and silky till she couldn't do one thing with it because they didn't even have hairspray then. I can remember thinking that Mama could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And she pretty well could.
What's your first memory, Shelby? What do you see when you think of Pa way, way, way back?
I can't remember that far back. All I remember is after he loved equipment. And so he started buying dump trucks. Parked anywhere, especially if he was working on something or.
Mother, you told me that one of your earliest memories is David.
I don't remember anything about him except when they laid him out after he died. Grandma had a buffet.
Yeah.
Old-timey buffet. And they laid him out on top of that, put a sheet there, and then laid him on top of that.
How old were you, Dot? When they
About 2.5.
And you remember all that?
Yeah. And
What
I
did you
don't
do?
remember it very well, but I guess I wanted to suppress that memory. But Mama, I had some new hair ribbons, and they couldn't afford to go to the florist or anywhere to buy flowers. And they picked flowers, and Mama used my new hair ribbons to tie them together. And I cried through the whole funeral because
Your pretty hair ribbon.
my hair ribbons were up there tied around his flowers.
I believe that's some of my earliest memories. Of walking down to the church and being there and going to sleep under the pews and then having to get up and waddle home.
Was it a shouting church?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
They shout and run.
And we'd go down there during the daytime when there was nothing going on and play church.
Yeah.
We'd have our own service.
Good time.
We didn't have nothing else to do.
We didn't have
There
that. There was no games, nothing. We didn't have nothing to play with.
There wasn't any such thing as television or any kind of.
We played hopscotch with rocks.
Well, I have a question.
Drew it off.
All right. Did you have electricity?
No.
There was no
electricity.
So I'm assuming there was no indoor plumbing.
No.
You had an outhouse.
We didn't have indoor plumbing until Bobby was, after he was born. We had indoor plumbing.
Good time.
And it was what?
Until I left to go to Lee College, we had never had electricity.
Really? So this is late 40s.
Yeah.
Tell me about Granny Aycock. What's your first memory of her? Did you like her?
She was boss.
She was boss?
She was boss of Daddy and everybody.
Really?
Yeah, she boss.
Pa
She
would
told
do what
Daddy-
she said?
Oh yeah,
She
Daddy
bossed
Jones.
Mama and Daddy and every one of us.
She
and
thought they were
anybody
all.
else that-
She thought Mom and Daddy was just children.
They were.
Just children. Well, even when she died, she still thought they was boss. In fact, after she had her stroke and she was just about dead, and she was worried about something, and Mama asked her about it, and she said, "I just want to know one thing." She says, "Have I still got any land?"
So why was she so keen about
She was obsessed.
sweeping the
She
yard?
was obsessed about
She was
things,
OCD.
and it had to be all in one pattern.
Yeah.
And she would want us. She'd come in there and raise Cain with Mama, and she came in there one day because me and Shelby had snuck back in the house, and we were there. Mama was peeling peaches, I believe, or something, and and she came in there with her brush broom, and just gonna frail us out.
She was
down good.
frailing us.
And Mama she said she knows God just, had his hand in it, because she said it would have been so easy for her to have hurt that, because she couldn't hurt Grandma because she was such a little bitty thing. And she just came in there and went to hitting us with it, and Mama put the thing down and jumped up and grabbed the thing away from her and said, "Miss Lois, have you lost your mind?" And she says, "These sorry young'uns won't come out there and help me." She says, "These children are in here," and I was talking to them, and said, "And besides that, Miss Lois, the yard doesn't need to be swept. There's some things that are more important than every little line, because the chickens would get out in the yard and then they'd mess up things, and she'd sweep it every day. But if we swept anything, we didn't do it right, and she'd go right behind us and do it over again. And she'd have a little pile, maybe like this, of dirt and rocks where she had swept it up, but it was all perfectly fine.
And she swept the yards every day, and she wanted us out there and sweeping, and then she'd go right behind us and make the streaks in
I would
it.
say she was OCD.
Yeah,
She
she
was.
probably
She
I'm
was.
sure she was. And she not only would sweep the yard around the house, she would sweep all out around the barn and under those pecan trees out there and everything. It all had to be. I think that was really important about her. She was such a determined, self-willed person. Grandpa died when Daddy was 10 years old, and he took over driving them everywhere they went at 10 years old, and Grandma took over taking care of the farm, and this was not
Too
right
long
close-
before the
right close
Depression.
to the Depression, and yet she ran that farm and took care of everything. And Aunt Myrtle, of course, was 3 or 4 years older than Daddy.
Almost 4.
And so she was a young teenager, and but Grandma took care of that farm, and there were people all around there that lost everything they had, and Grandma came through that without losing 1 acre of land.
Bobby, you got any early images of Ma and Pa?
Oh yeah, but
Well, give us just one.
well, I was just talking to JM about my earliest. I think my earliest memory of Daddy was down at the pond, and it was all cleared off, and that pond had just been, the dam had just been done, and I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
So this would have been about 1955.
Somewhere, but Sport was still living in the goat house, and Rosalie.
Yeah.
And we were walking across the pond dam with Daddy and Sport.
What about Ma? What's the first thing you remember about Ma?
Kindergarten. She had signed, and so I was probably 5 years old, and Debbie was 4, and so we were supposed to go to kindergarten, and she said to Melvin, "I just can't deal with these two, Melvin. You're going to have to just take them up to kindergarten." And so Melvin drove us up to kindergarten, first day, and Debbie screamed the whole time, "I'm burning up with a fever. I'm burning up with a fever." And Melvin took us both back home. And so I didn't go to kindergarten because Mama said she wasn't going to take just one of us up there. She was going to, if Deborah wasn't going, then I wasn't going either. So I didn't go to kindergarten.
Because of Debbie.
Yeah.
Because of me.
Okay.
When I started the first grade, the first day of the first grade, Daddy took me to school and stayed there the whole day. And I kept looking around, and he was always there. I saw him. He would be standing behind something, like trying to be inconspicuous, but he was there. And he stayed there the whole day and then took me back home at the end of the day. Then the next time this was a very vivid memory. They were hauling some dirt up in Jenkins County somewhere. I don't know what they were hauling it for, but there was the dump trucks going down this long dirt road, and he was sitting over in the passenger seat, and I was driving down this dirt road, and it felt like about 10 miles. And so we came around a curve, and there was a dump truck coming around the curve. So I just went all out across the ditch, all out through the bushes, all out through the bushes, and then got it back out on the road and stopped and looked over, and he said, "Go ahead, go, let's go."
Who said that?
Daddy. like it was nothing.
All right.
The year I was 14, I got off the school bus. We had to get off down there where the church is and walk up the road to the house. And I got off, and Daddy was clearing that piece of ground, clearing the stumps off of it, that there where, on the left-hand side of Jesse Aycock Circle. He said, "Come here, Dot, come here just a minute." And I went over there, and he said, "I want you to get on this bulldozer, kind that had the roller wheels, you know,
Right.
and no steering wheel, just levers."
Right.
He said, "I want you to get on this and drive it up to the house for me." I said, "Daddy, I can't drive that thing." He said, "Sure you can. I'll show you how. Just get up there." And he would not have it any other way. I had to get on that thing
Bulldozer.
and drive it home. Well, I made it fine until I got up to the house, and here came Shelby and Joe and JM running out there, going round and round me, and I couldn't stop it. Couldn't remember where the brake was.
He had JM drive one all the way from the beach, all the way back into town, didn't he? All the way back out the old Louisville Road, a big motor grader. How old were you when you did that?
About 16.
Yeah.
I got my license when I was 2 years earlier. When I was 14, where I could work with Daddy down in Savannah.
B.L. Coward.
B.L. Cowart, he was a neighbor up there, but he was a state patrol. Daddy said, "I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna get B.L. Cowart to help you get your license." And B.L. said, "Yeah, I'll help you." Said, "JM can drive better than me and you, Jesse." And someone carried me over to Sylvania, and I got my license, and he wrote down there, he looked at my birth certificate and all that, and birth date was still on my license till last time I renewed my license. It said I was born in 1940, and I was born in 42. And they
He just changed it.
said, "Mr. Aycock, this computer says you were born in 42. You want me to change it?" And I said, "Yeah." I drove, they had a bunch of construction down at the Tybee, the beach, and Daddy had a brand new Caterpillar motor grader. And didn't have no one to bring it back to Louisville Road over there. And Daddy said, well let GM carry it on back there." I said, "All right." And I drove that big old motor grader, 16 years old, all the way through Thunderbolt, Victor Drive, all the way out to Louisville Road when I was 16.
In the summer I was 16, I drove that lowboy and hauled all that heavy equipment around that summer. In the summer before that, I drove that HD16 Caterpillar that he had. It was an Alice Chandler bulldozer.
Yeah.
I drove it all summer. And what his helpers used to say is, you just driving it, you ain't operating it. You're not an operator, you're a driver.
Debbie, we've heard some good stories. You're gonna have to dig deep.
One thing I remember about Mom is sitting on the front porch with her when she'd be shelling butter beans, and I'd be sitting up there barefoot. I don't know, I just remember that, sitting on the front porch, and she'd be sitting in the rocking chair, and I'd be sitting there right beside her, and she'd be shelling butter beans and her singing to me. And I remember her fixing these jars for us and poking holes in it, and us catching fireflies and putting it in those jars. And then I remember when we were in elementary school, Bobby, and when we come home, when we get off the bus, she'd always have something for us, like she made those homemade donuts, remember, Bobby? She'd have some kind of treat for us when we got off the bus. This is elementary school now. I have, the earliest memory I have of him is he would get me every evening. I would sit up in his lap and I would comb his hair for about an hour. And he loved it. That's what he wanted me to do. And he would give me a nickel. And I'd sit there and comb that beautiful head of hair of his. And that's one of the earliest memories I have of him, is him.
Okay, last question. Who was Mom's favorite?
Oh, boy.
I think I was the least favorite. Everybody else thinks I was the worst.
You weren't the worstest.
You were just Shelby.
Never
You
said
just
that.
like to pick, but you got that honest from your
I
daddy.
never said
Oh,
that.
is that where it comes from?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Daddy was a big picker.
Daddy was a big picker.
Was he a big tease? Now
Yeah.
see, I didn't know him that way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was a huge tease.
So
I think Mama and Daddy loved all of us. I think we were, I don't know if
think they had a favorite,
Well, the bottom line is they didn't have a favorite. Okay? They, our parents gave everything that they had and everything that they could get to their children. And the only thing that Daddy ever said to me, because he paid for a lot of stuff for me, and I wanted to buy him a truck when I got out of medical school. He said, I don't need a truck, I got a truck. And I said, well, I got to pay you back somehow. You've done way too much for me. I got to pay you back. And what he said, just do what I've done for you for your children. And that's it. And that's how I want you to pay me back. So that's what I did.
I'll tell you, Mom, when she got older though, in her last year of her life, she remembered all the children, but she could not remember my name. It really, really bothered me because I felt like, how can she remembers everyone else, but she's just not remembering, you know, who I am. That little girl that used to play in the sandbox with Bobby. One of the last few times I was there, now I would sleep with her every night. I would sleep in the bed with her because she loved that. And so she was ready to go to bed usually by 8 o'clock or 8:30, and I got her into bed, and I went back into her living room, was watching TV, and I heard her in there up and bumbling around. And I went in there and turned on the light. I said, what are you doing? She says, I'm looking for that little girl that said that she was going to sleep with me.
Oh, my.
Oh. I said, well, here I am. Let's go to bed. And
But
so-
Debbie, one thing that may have caused that, you know, Pa Brown died right after you were born.
Yeah.
She was still very weak.
2 weeks after she was born.
About 11 days, I think,
Yeah.
after she was born. And Mama had a real hard time after that. You know, she had that nervous breakdown.
She probably blocked a lot of it
And
out.
it probably blocked a lot of the memories that she would have liked to have kept
Yeah.
out of her mind.
Well, good. I'm going to stop this.